Hi everybody and welcome back to the 75th season of Bearcat Update. I'm your host Jason Holland and today we'll be updating you on how the seasons are looking for our fall sports. From soccer's high anticipation heading into the MIAA tournament to women's basketball's big victories against the nation's best and everything in between. Let's get it. The Bearcat football team clinched their 29th straight winning season after traveling to St. Joe yesterday to take on the Missouri Western Griffins in the Battle of Highway 71. This marks the 11th straight time that the Bearcats have defeated the Griffins, and in big part due to the 227 all-purpose yard performance from junior running back Tank Young. 5 sacks and big plays from the defense, including a blocked punt by senior defensive end Jake Fisher, helped the Cats to their 8th straight victory in Spratt Stadium. Needless to say, Highway 71 is painted green. An interception from senior defensive back Austin McKinney with 3 minutes and 10 seconds left to play, and senior kicker Noah Gastella, 4th field goal of the night shortly after, all but sealed the deal for the Bearcats. The Cats will welcome Pittsburgh State to Bearcat Stadium for their last game of the season next Saturday. After snapping their 4-match skid with a win over Missouri Southern on Friday, the Bearcat volleyball team looked to keep their end of the season homestand undefeated as they welcomed the UCM Jennies to Bearcat Arena yesterday. There's something different in the air when the Cats play at home because this match was mostly one-sided from the get-go, with the first 2 sets being won by 6 or more points and the last set going to the Cats 25-22. The girls in green reminded everyone why green is always better than red. Senior Natalie Layola and sophomore Ella Caffrey combined for 35 assists, 11 of which going to junior right side hitter Cassidy Mowinkle. The Bearcats look to extend their homestand win streak as they welcome Nebraska Kearney to Bearcat Arena on Friday. For more on volleyball, we send it over to our reporter, Zac Scott. Take it away, Zach.
Welcome back to Tenacity, the show where we keep you up to date with all things Northwest volleyball. Last week we talked with Peyton Kirchhofer about Northwest's hard-fought week. This week we get to talk about Northwest's future and possibilities after this week's victories. This week the Bearcats got 2 victories with a 4-set victory over Missouri Southern and a 3-set sweep over Central Missouri. With these victories, the Bearcats stay at 6th in the MIAA, bordered by number 5 Emporia State and number 7 Arkansas Fort Smith. The Bearcats have 2 more games before they end their conference standing at home. The next 2 games will be easily 2 games you don't want to miss. The Bearcats will return on Friday at 6 to take on the best team in the MIAA, with a 12-1 conference record overshadowing their overwhelming 25-1 overall record, the Nebraska Kearney Lopers. The last time the Lopers entered Bearcat Arena, the Bearcats lost 1-3. If the Bearcats are to take on the top seed, they will need to be on their A game. On Saturday, ending off the Bearcats' home games, the final opponent with a 4-9 record in conference and a 12-10 overall record is the Fort Hays Tigers. Last time Fort Hays was at Bearcat Arena, they trounced the Tigers in a 3-set sweep. Let's hope to see the same results on Saturday as MIAA standings conclude for Northwest. With Northwest being in 6th for the MIAA volleyball standings, they need you to cheer them on at Bearcat Arena next week. Make sure to catch all the action at Bearcat Arena with family and friends, but don't worry if you can't make it to Friday's matchup against Nebraska Kearney. KNWT will be hosting pregame with KZLX's Wiley Ray and Jackson Phelps, as well as your favorite Bearcat Update host, Jason Holland. And after pregame, catch all coverage of Friday's matchup on KNWT TV. Thanks for watching, and back to you, Jason.
After 5 players earned all MIAA honors on Friday, the Bearcat soccer team will look to translate their individual successes into team successes as they take on the 3rd-ranked UCM Jennies in the first round of the MIAA tournament today in Warrensburg. After a short skid to end the regular season, the Cats will look to ride on the backs of first-team All-MIAA performer Jimena Arnu and second-teamer Katrina Theoharidis. The Bearcats are ranked 8th in the NCAA Central Region, and with only the top 8 teams in the region qualifying for the NCAA tournament, the Cats will need to find successes to keep their hopes for a November run alive. For more on soccer and their outlook going into the MIAA tournament, we throw it over to our reporter, Reece Hill. Over to you.
The Northwest soccer team finished their regular season with a 7-5-6 mark, including a 5-4-3 record in conference play. The Bearcats are backing into the MIAA tournament following a 3-game skid against conference opponents Pittsburgh State, Washburn, and Emporia State to end the season, which dropped the Bearcats to 6th place in the league. Postseason play will begin today for the Bearcats against the Central Missouri Jennies, who they battled to a high-scoring 4-4 tie earlier this season. Currently, in the Central region, UCM is ranked 2nd and Northwest is ranked 8th. If the Bearcats are going to get back on track and avoid an early exit today, they will need a big performance from goalkeeper Lily Ellis. Ellis, who has played in 16 of 18 games this year, currently sits at 4th all-time in career saves in school history and will add to her season total of 106 as the Bearcats defense looks to stifle the Jennies offense. Another key player for the Bearcats will be forward Ekaterina Theoharidis. Despite being held scoreless during the 3-game losing streak, Theoharidis has been the top offensive threat for Northwest this season, leading the team in most offensive categories including goals, assists, and points. Zooming out for a moment, should the Bearcats advance to the second round of the tournament, they will face the winner of Missouri Western and Nebraska Kearney, both teams they failed to beat earlier this season. At the conclusion of the regular season, 5 different Bearcats were awarded all-conference honors, with middle fielder Jimena Arnau earning a first-team All-MIAA roster spot.
Thanks, Reece. But hey, it's halftime. If you like what you see, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell to be the first to know when we post new content. But as we head into our first break of the show, make sure to stick around to catch our meeting with the cheer team. We'll be right back.
Running since 1971, broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Featuring programs and news from National Public Radio, as well as Americana, jazz, and classical music. KXCV 90.5 FM Maryville, KNRW 88.9 FM Chillicothe.
Television connects. We put our heart and soul into delivering a quality broadcast just for you. Whether it's sports, community events, and much more, we have fun bringing these events to you. KNWT Live brings that feeling of being at Northwest anywhere you go. So join us in the experience.
Welcome back to Bearcat Update. Our reporter Jake Walker sat down with another one of his teammates on the cheer team so you can get to know them and their story. Over to you, Jake.
Welcome back to Meet the Cheer Team. For this week's interview, we sat down with one of our rookie guys of the program.
I'm Akeley Nicholson. This is my first year on the team. My major is criminology, and I'm a co-ed base.
Akeley's path towards cheerleading is a similar path that many men in the sport have taken.
Whenever I first started the cheer, it was my sophomore year of high school, and I noticed football wasn't really for me. I used to be scrawny. I was like 160 pounds. And Court Watkins, he used to be on the team. He goes, "Hey, why don't you go try out cheer?" And I was like, man, I will not do that. I'm not gonna do cheer. But I tried it. I actually ended up being pretty decent at it.
Even all the way back in his high school years, Akeley was familiar with members of our program.
The people that had like a major influence on me coming to Northwest would be Jake Walker. I seen him out there cheering. I've been to games. I lived in Maryville. I grew up here. And he was just having a blast, and he made it seem like it was really fun. Also, the coach in previous years, Henry, amazing dude. He's funny. He got me to hands my first time. He taught me how to do co-ed.
For many people outside of the sport, guys in cheer may be viewed in a certain light, but Akeley has words of encouragement for any fellow male cheerleaders.
People looking in at cheer, they don't get the full concept of what you do as a guy. They think it's just cheering and like being very spirited, which it is. There's a lot of that, don't get me wrong. But there's also a lot of like stunting where the girls need the guys' help to actually hit a stunt. And a big part of what stops other people from doing cheer, which they could be great, I've seen a lot of people that are really good, is their insecurities. They feel like it's more of a feminine sport and they don't feel like guys really belong there. It's a major part of my life right now, and I don't foresee myself not being able to teach others what I have learned through the times. Just this summer for next year, I'm trying out for UCA staff just so I can travel all through central USA and teaching people how to cheer and spread the joy.
Despite being on the team for less than a year, Akeley has had no problem developing camaraderie and friendships with his teammates.
Yeah, no, being on the team, I have made tons of new friends, met some amazing people. There's a lot of things Northwest has to offer other than just the cheer team. And the cheer team is great for building new friendships. Like coming in, I didn't know a lot of people here, but through the team, it expanded like to other organizations and everything. I'd say for sure try out.
That's going to wrap up our time with Bearcat Cheer. We're going to swing this one back over to your host. Take it away, Jason.
Thanks, Jake. The Bearcat men's basketball team opened their season on Friday under the lead of new head coach Matt Keeley. The Cats traveled to St. Joe to take on Augustana in the Hilliard Tip-Off Classic. After a competitive first 7 minutes that saw the Cats and Vikings tied, a 7-0 run from the Northmen was the start of a one-sided affair for the remainder of the contest. Back-to-back threes by seniors Luke Moustakis and Spencer Shomers at the start of the second half saw the Bearcats cut the lead to 3, but it was all Augustana from there. A 26-4 run that saw the Bearcats only make 2 baskets from the 1920 to 7:30 marks left the Cats' season opener spoiled. The boys will look to rebound today as they take on Wayne State in the final game of the Hilliard Tip-Off Classic. The Bearcat women's basketball team continues to shock the nation as they defeated the defending national champions and #1 ranked Minnesota State yesterday in the final game of the Central Region Women's Basketball Showcase. After defeating the #5 ranked Ashland Eagles in the first game of the season, the girls in green continue to be the Grim Reapers of ranked opponents, improving the record to 3-1. Senior guard Kaylee Keston led the way against the Mavericks with a career-high 27 points, shooting 7 for 13 from beyond the arc. The Cats look to continue their hot start as they take on Rockhurst and Kansas City on Thursday. We're going to shift gears here for a bit. Wiley Ray and Jackson Phelps of X106.7 are going in-depth on the state of our women's sports here on campus. Basketball's historic start, soccer's live update as they compete in the MIAA tournament, and volleyball season recapped. Over to you, Wiley.
Thanks, Jason. My name is Wiley Ray, and with me as always is Jackson Phelps. And Jackson, what a weekend it's been for women's athletics here at Northwest.
Women's athletics right now, at an all-time high, especially women's basketball. We got to see a historic start for the women's team there against #5 Ashland, taking a loss to #2 Texas women's, but coming back yesterday with a win against MSU Moorhead and the #1 team in the nation, Wiley, Minnesota State winning 85-67.
Yeah, you talk about that big win. I mean, 2 top 5 wins, getting the season opener, an 8-point win against #5 Ashland, then falling in a close one to #2 Texas women's, and then bouncing back with a win against, as you said, MSU Moorhead, and then getting a dominant win, almost a 20-point victory over the #1 defending national champions, the Minnesota State Mankato Mavericks. But, that one, Jackson, statistically, it was a great game for Northwest.
Really was. You look at some of those stats. You look at Kaylee Keston with 27 points, Kelsey Fields with 18, Molly Hartnett 15, Lindsay Kelderman 13. A bunch of people from last year's team. The girls came back from last year who are making an impact in this year. Kind of a shocker. This was Northwest's first ever win versus the #1 ranked opponent in history, and one of the best starts we've ever seen from any Northwest team so far.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at that and you talked about some big players making some big key factors. Kaylee Keston, we had the opportunity to call for KZLX on Friday, and she had 20 points, and 18 of those points were threes.
Yes.
And to sit there and see that big of a difference maker, I mean, she went 5 for 8 against Minnesota State, and you just kind of look at the difference maker she makes beyond the arc, it is amazing of what she can do for this Northwest team.
It really is. You look, she had 5 3-points yesterday, and then you just said it, 6 3-pointers for the game against MSU Moorhead that we were able to call. The girls look so much more gelled than last year. You know, that's what happens whenever you get that team from last year coming into the next year. They just look so well-rounded, and I think they just know everyone around. A couple new freshmen. You got Moss coming in from Iowa too, so you get a lot of people, you know, and Coach Austin Meyer has done a great job of assembling this team, and he does a great job at drawing up plays, going up against tough opponents like that, coming in with great schemes. So all that I've seen from women's basketball is nothing but good, and I think from here on out you could see nothing but progress. So I love that.
Yeah, and you just look at how the cohesiveness of the team is there. I mean, we saw them on Friday, and they were all smiles. They were winning big, and they were smiling. But even when they were down, or you know, it was a close game, they still were smiling. They still were taking it serious, and you know, really, they have bought in to Myers coaching, and that's really one thing that you love to see if you're head coach Austin Meyer.
You know, talking about Austin Meyer, I mean, he came over to us saying, hey, if you ever need anything, he's such a nice guy. Austin Meyer's the coach that you want to play for. Always great leadership, always great attitude about the game too. And I think that's why the girls are doing so well. You're under a regime of someone who's always confident and great with the girls as well. So I think Austin Meyer, you know, is a great fit for this team.
Yeah, no doubt about that one. But just like the Bearcats are on break, we're going to join them as we take our final commercial break of the show. When we come back, we have big news. We'll be right back on Bearcat Update.
Finger paints. Water. Egg. Glue. Glitter. By golly, it's perfect.
What is it?
It's loosely related. Thursdays at noon.
Welcome back to Bearcat Update. Once again, I'm Wiley Ray, and with me is Jackson Phelps. And Jackson, we are now turning the page to volleyball action, which, you know, KNWT is working with the MIAA network to bring that to Bearcat Arena as they face Nebraska Kearney on Friday.
That game against Nebraska Kearney, like you mentioned, on Friday, MIAA Network and BCU. It's going to be an awesome time, so shout out to us for being able to work a great game for that. So coming to a very great end to a season, you got 2 games left for the MIAA tournament, both at home this weekend, Nebraska Kearney and Fort Hays State. So 2 games for the girls to look at big time if they want to make a statement in the MIAA tournament.
Yeah, and you just look at this, you know, 14-10 overall season so far going into those last 2 home games. And Nebraska Kearney ranked number 5 really in Division II volleyball rankings. And Northwest is one of 4 teams this season who the Lopers have allowed a set on. So when you look at this one, I mean, really it's going to be a heavy battle for the Bearcats. But don't get it twisted. I think Northwest, you know, that home atmosphere, they're really going to bring things in. And, you know, I truly got the Bearcats in a 3-2 upset.
You know, I do too. The last 2 games have been at home against Missouri Southern and a tough Central Missouri team, both winning against Missouri Southern 3-1 and Central Missouri 3-0. So you get the Bearcat girls at home against a tough opponent in Nebraska Kearney and Fort Hays. But like I said, it's at home in Bearcat Arena. So I'm also going to take the Bearcats here, especially with the last 2 games being at Bearcat Arena. I think the women have a great chance to win 2 more games going to the MIAA tournament at home. Yeah,
and you just look at the last time, as we mentioned, they fell 3-1, but they were close sets. First one being 25-18, and then they won the second one 25-23, and then fell in kind of some more lopsided sets, 25-12, and then 25-15. But really, you just look at the tenacity that this team has. It really shows that it's going to help this Bearcat team as we get closer to the MIAA tournament.
I also think so too. You know, they're led by some great seniors this year. Kyra Luring, Olivia Durr, Avery Kemp. You look at Peyton Kirchhofer. You got a lot of other people. Abby Brunson as well, Kristen Ford, Natalie Laiolo. And you just look at those leaders on this Bearcat team, and that's why they're so well-rounded. They're led by such great, teammates in those seniors.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the senior class. I mean, you said Peyton Kirchhoff or Olivia Durr.
Mm-hmm.
Olivia Durr, second and third in the total points, and leading that category is Abby Brunson, averaging just 4 points a set. Which you look at that, making that big of a difference. Obviously, that comes with being a veteran, that comes with being a senior, but also at the same time, that really just shows how much of a difference maker she makes to that lineup.
Especially with those seniors, and and they have a great impact on some of the new freshmen on this team as well. So, Ellery Luring, you got a lot of other players too, Wiley, that you want to mention.
Yeah, just looking at Norrell and Luring, and you look at how those two really have made a difference into this team. It really having that underclassmen role set in for them, especially as freshmen, where they're coming to Division II, they may be new to a whole setting. Really bringing that into fruition for them is going to help this team.
And one to mention, Ellery Luring has had an amazing season so far, and she has her sister Kyle Luring being a senior leader as well. So having that sister connection and having being close to all the other teammates probably for the last couple of years, and this probably was an easy decision for her to come to Northwest. So she's definitely has been a big impact player for Northwest.
Yeah, and another one is number 20 Maha Nurin. And that one, you look at her stats, and man, 60, almost 70 points as a freshman. You look at the rest of that. She's up there with the best of them, especially this upperclassmen group, and she's really going to make a big difference as this season carries on, going into the postseason, which we're two games left in the home stance, and then after that it's the MIAA tournament. But Northwest has found themselves in the right spot to help them as they work to that tournament.
I also think so too. Like we've been talking about, both these games at home, we get to cover one of them on Friday. Really big chance for the Bearcats to make a statement before a tough MIAA tournament ahead. So this is a perfect opportunity for the Bearcats to find themselves and to get each other recollected, and for those senior leaders to get everyone ready for a tough MIAA tournament.
Yeah, and even if you take the loss to Nebraska Kearney, you still play a familiar Fort Hays State team who you beat in Hays, Kansas 3-0 in really convincing manner. So, you can walk away going into the MIAA tournament being 1-1 at the end of this. But you're obviously still wanting that upset, and you're still wanting to look at that game and get that big win.
I also agree, Wiley. And for the volleyball team from the last couple of years, it's definitely been a slow start. But right now, I think this is the strongest start that they've had all season long.
Yeah, just also shifting gears currently right now as we're talking ourselves in here in Bearcat Update, the soccer team is in Warrensburg facing Central Missouri. They're currently tied 0-0 with about 24 minutes to go in the first half. But as we wrap up this week's edition of Bearcat Update, our reporter Jaden Varner is going to preview next week's Bearcat schedule. Take it away, Jaden.
Thanks, Wiley, and welcome back to Next Week in Bearcat Sports. I'm your host, Jaden Varner, and me and my coffee mug are back in the studio this week. Now, there's a lot to cover this week with soccer, volleyball, and football seasons coming to a close, and with the men and women's basketball season getting underway. So get comfy, this could be a long one. Football will play their final game of the season this Saturday, with Pittsburgh State coming to town for Senior Day. The Gorillas will be well rested as they are coming off a bye week after a rather surprising loss to the UCM Mules the prior week. The Bearcats could look at that game for a blueprint against the Gorillas. The Bearcats have had a very back and forth season, and their record this season shows that. While the postseason may not be in the cards for our Bearcats, a win against the Gorillas would certainly give them a major confidence boost for next season. Looking at could play a big role for the Bearcats this week, I'm looking at Jake Fisher to continue being a force to be reckoned with, as he'll be my senior spotlight player against Pittsburgh State. Volleyball, much like football, will see their season coming to a close. With the MIAA tournament coming later this month, we'll see the Bearcat volleyball team taking on Nebraska Kearney on Friday and Fort Hays on Saturday. These will be very important matches for the Bearcats, as Nebraska Kearney is #1 in the MIAA standings. The Lopers got the better of the Northwest Bearcats earlier in the season, winning 3-1, and the Bearcats got the better of Fort Hays 3-0 earlier in the year. Volleyball will have to be on their A game to close out the season, as they have been on a losing skid as of late. Look for Kyle Ring to be a major factor in these two matchups and get the Bearcats back in the win column. With basketball starting up, it's time to talk about it. Looking at the men's team, the Matt Keeley era starts with them as they take part in the Hilliard Tip-Off Classic. They will be taking on Wayne State later today. They'll also be in action on Thursday and Friday, taking on Chadron State and UC Colorado Springs. I'm looking forward to see how Coach Keeley has prepared this team, as well as anticipating a couple of wins. As for the women's team, their season started off with the D2 Tip-Off Classic, where they beat number 5 ranked Ashland and lost the number 2 ranked Texas Women's. They'll head to Kansas City this Thursday and Friday to take on Rockhurst and Graceland. The Bearcats will look to build off of a strong season that they had last year, which saw them head to their first NCAA tournament in 13 years. With most of the same lineup returning for this season, I anticipate a great year for them, and I will be very excited to see what they have in store as of their games on Thursday and Friday. I expect a couple of Bearcat wins, and look for Kaylee Kess to continue being the dominant force that she is, as she'll be my spotlight player this week. As always, make sure to go out and support your Bearcats. They appreciate every bit of it. This has been Next Week in Bearcat Sports. I'm Jaden Varner.
Thanks, Jaden. But that's all the time that we have for you today. I'm your host, Jason Holland, and this has been Bearcat Update, the provider of complete coverage of Northwest sports. We are live every Sunday at 1, and you can find us on YouTube at KNWT TV. As well as Bearcat Update, you can watch KNWT's other content as well. Thank you all for watching, and we'll be back in no time.